Nice guitar skill.
Well, thanks. Nice G.skill yourself.
Oh, what? This weird thing? Yeah, can you believe g.skill made a case? From the looks of it, I thought it was an in-win collaboration or something. I know, right? Because the really bizarre shape, plus the curved tempered glass, you don't see that on. But I am told this is all work from g.skill. Can you believe it? I am not sure that's a good thing. You're gonna save the price till the end, right? Oh, absolutely. Let's begin right after this. Let's. The Be Quiet Shadow Rock 3. It won't block your memory thanks to the offset construction. It will not sound like a hurricane thanks to the Quiet Shadow Wings 2 fan. It will give you a peace of mind with exceptional cooling, easy installation, and the interesting bicolor design. Check it out below. So good, people. The G.skill Z5i, what to say about it? It's kind of laughable at how bad some of the elements are, but it's also fascinating too in some aspects. This is clearly an attempt of a we have a case too, just like they did with the whole peripheral lineup, although they're not very popular. But ITX is getting so much traction right now. People want to downscale. People don't want massive full towers anymore if you're just going with a single GPU and a simple motherboard combination. So not necessarily this is going to be a downscale, maybe if you're coming from a full tower, because for an ITX thing, this is a pretty large enclosure. So let's cover some fascinating bits first, starting with the whole design. So as you can see, the shape is very weird, but also unique. That looks like an old school iron, and that's possible because of the curved tempered glass panels on both sides, which normally is very hard to achieve, and also the yields to get these side panels cut properly and bent properly are very low, so that increases the price. Fortunately, they do swivel to open and can be removed completely. You just have to be careful as the weight of both panels can tip the case backwards. I will say I'm very impressed with the curvature of this tempered glass panel, which is super thick by the way at 4mm, but it follows the curvature of the case from both top and bottom exactly and precisely, but also there are no imperfections at the bend. You know, it's just like, it's a very smooth transition. Both side panels sit on pretty strong magnets, which gives me confidence if I'm moving the case around, they won't just simply fly open, but you need to intentionally pry them open. And I use pry correctly here because they're so well attached to the frame that you need to really dig your nails in there and pry it open. And that's not a good design because first of all, we have this brushed aluminum front section here that immediately gets dirty, not just from your fingerprints, but from the nail material that gets left over there. Like the residue of you simply trying to open the damn thing. Secondly, you can see there's a bunch of residue from the peel that was left over, which is again unfortunate. And many times when I'm trying to open this side panel on the left, I accidentally, press the power button. So not a good design there. I will say I appreciate the tint on the glass panels. It's just the right amount of neutral. It's very dark, but it's not leaning towards the green or the blue like we see with so many cases. The I/O is pretty basic, as you can see. 2 USB 3 ports, a power button, and a USB-C port. Branding wise, I don't like what they did here. So massive G.skill text on the front of the case. It is of course ARGB, only controllable through the 5-volt addressable header on your motherboard, so you need to connect it if you want to have any lighting. It's been a very long time since I've seen any underglow lighting, but it's done well here. It's diffused, it's soft, it's vibrant. All right, so getting inside, we have an ITX motherboard facing down, so you have to figure out how to route the I/O. We have an SFX power supply only slot above the motherboard, and we have this whole space at the back for a 240 or a 280mm radiator. And if you're using a regular CPU tower, this is supported up to 70mm. In terms of the width for that cooling chamber, there is actually room for push and pull configuration, but you might encounter challenges of where to route your tubing, especially for an all-in-one cooler. Since it's attached, you don't have much modularity there, so keep that in mind. I would stick to a single set of fans only. While on the other side here we have our storage and the GPU chamber, so we can install 2 SSDs right below the GPU and a 3.5-inch drive right above it if you're using a slightly shorter GPU. But in general, triple slot graphics cards up to 330mm are supported here with the Z5i, but also because it is completely covered with the tempered glass, cooling is going to be a big compromise, and also visuals too because of how dark the tempered glass is. The riser cable in this chamber is unfortunately Gen 3. You'd expect it to be Gen 4 based on the price though. It is good that the glass is tinted so much on this side because all your cables from the power supply are completely exposed and visible, so you have to do a really good job to make sure things are under control. With black cables, it is easy to achieve, plus this whole area is very exposed to you right away, so doing cable management is very simple. At the top here, we have this removable metal mesh that acts as your dust filter, plus some ventilation that you will need to take out to remove the power supply bracket. But honestly, don't expect miracles in terms of cooling because of this design. So when we take a look at the CPU temperatures, they're not fantastic. You still have some configuration options, intake versus exhaust, and they align perfectly to what I got with the sub Meshalicious, which has the same cooler, the same configuration anyway. I would highly recommend you set the fans to intake for your radiator. As you can see, they're very close to the open frame configuration. However, when we look at the GPU low temperatures, I mean, this chamber is completely choked. What else we were expecting, right? So when the frame is open, beautiful temperatures. When the case is closed, both in exhaust and intake, they do vary. So exhaust is slightly better for the GPU, but worse for the CPU, and vice versa when we have the fans as intake at the back there. Given how bad the GPU temperatures are, I think this was a sign. This was the very first time I've ever broken a tempered glass side panel. This is the right side for the GPU, so my temperatures without it are going to be fantastic. But something to keep in mind, don't keep the side panel on the floor like this. Even though it's somewhat stable, it will be knocked over and potentially break and shatter. So you will need to either undervolt the GPU, open the side panel slightly when the GPU is under any significant load, or just accept the fact that you're buying this case not for performance, but for this weird, unique shell, which, by the way, size-wise is not very compact. As you can see right next to the Meshalicious and my other towering ITX cases, the Z5i is pretty massive. So there are plenty of compromises with this thing, as expected. And so finally, let's talk about the price point, if you can find this thing. So it's going to sell for above $200 US, which, given the global shipping increases, is gonna eat into that price point as well. But still, you know, it's very difficult to recommend something like this unless you are truly in love with the design and you don't care about the performance of your GPU, and you're willing to go around it somehow. But still, as a first enclosure from G.skill, I really hope that they can take away all the cool things that fascinate me about this enclosure, apply it to their next one with more performance elements kind of like built into the enclosure, so it doesn't feel like such a big compromise, especially compared to everything else that is available on the market. All right, guys, let me know what you think of the G.skill Z5i down in the comments below. I'm Dmitry, thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.